the party. He's the outgoing chairperson, and I was working as the SG until yesterday. And Mr. Speaker, I must vouch to the level of integrity that Honorable Muthama stood for during the nomination processes. His levels of competence, very good networking skills. He's a people person, Mr. Speaker. He traversed the whole country in the 47 counties. He traversed the whole country in the 47 counties, making sure that he has united all Kenyans under one cause. And Mr. Speaker, I witnessed a leader who did not have a bias based on the areas and the places, ethnic ethnic differences between people, a leader who did not regard those tendencies that other people would have. And Mr. Speaker, he brought people together. He was able to reconcile members when there were differences. And I can vouch that is bringing in competence to the Parliamentary Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, this morning, as we went through the hearing, the approval hearing of Honorable Johnstone Muthama, we sought to know his understanding regarding whether Joint Services Board that is in Parliament was needed or was in conflict with any other institution. And he had a level of clarity of mind which is inspired, Mr. Speaker, by his earlier experience in this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, both at Senate and the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. His tenure as a whip, as a majority whip, Mr. Speaker, is remembered by many people, even members of the public, when government was not losing motions that did not require to move. He was an efficient servant, Mr. Speaker, while he served. Mr. Speaker, on the question of oversight, we went into the depth, whether he understood the need for the oversight fund that the senators would need in order to be effective in their work and in their mandate under the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, on a first-hand basis, Honorable Johnstone Muthama had experienced the difficulties and the challenges that senators have when they have to utilize their only salary, Mr. Speaker, to oversight whole counties in many constituencies. And he narrated, Mr. Speaker, how difficult it was for a senator to set up offices, which he had tried to do, to give members of public an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to be able to bring their issues before his county offices and constituency offices, and those issues would then be propelled to Senate. It was clear, Mr. Speaker, from the interactions we had in the morning with Honorable Johnstone Muthama, that without the oversight fund, it was not going to be effective for any senator, Mr. Speaker, who does not have extra funds except what is in the payslip to be able to effectively oversight any county. So, Mr. Speaker, he made a very clear case of Senate looking into the issues and PSC looking into the issues of how Senate can be more affirmed in terms of being given more resources to be able to perform their duties, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, Honorable Johnstone Muthama came through as one who understood the relationship, the current relationship between the National Assembly and the Senate, especially on the issue of the flurry of litigation that has been horse-traded between the two houses. And Mr. Speaker, he came through as very clear that there was need now to settle that issue once and for all. And he was well equipped and ready to be able to push that mandate, Mr. Speaker. And the projects, Mr. Speaker, that have been pending before the PSC, Mr. Speaker, or on the PSC table, Mr. Speaker, he seemed very clear and conscious that there was now need to bring to accomplishment some of those projects that have been long-standing, either because they are not fully resourced or maybe because there was better need of utilization of whatever funds are allocated to projects that must benefit the current Parliament, Mr. Speaker. So I rise, Mr. Speaker, to say he's a man who has demonstrated patriotism, national unity, he is able to understand the devolution, he is able to understand rule of law and democracy and the need for participation of the people. So, Mr. Speaker, he meets the criteria set under Article 10, National Values and Principles of Good Governance. He meets that criterion, and he comes through as a personality that is minded of doing general good to the public, Mr. Speaker. And as I wind up, Mr. Speaker, it is notable that Honorable Muthama has engaged in a lot of charitable organization, has lifted people who are on the low end of life, Mr. Speaker, minded of their school fees, their need to be assisted through medical bills, Mr. Speaker, and he has a whole testimonial of how he has improved the lives of many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. For these reasons, Mr. Speaker, and the many reasons that I've had espoused on the floor of this House, I beg to support this motion. Thank you.
Senator John Kenyua.